Um, so before I begin with my purpose, I need to, let's see here. Yes. Good buddy. Sean King, because there's a very important message that we need to convey. What's up, King?
Yo, good to see you, man.
Man, likewise, bro. So we got a daunting task ahead of us, don't we?
Yeah, in Birmingham,
Mm-hmm.
a brother named Nate Woods was convicted back in 2004 for murder he had nothing to do with. And the crazy thing is, even police and prosecutors admit that he never touched the gun, never shot the gun, but police raided a drug house
Right.
that Nate was in. And when police came in, somebody in the house shot the police.
Now, wait a minute. So, but first of all, cut to today, presently.
Yeah.
This man, Nathan Woods, is about to be executed tomorrow, correct?
Tomorrow at probably about 5 p.m. So we're about 27 hours away from this man being executed. And he's the only person I've ever known in my life to be sentenced to death who everyone knows didn't actually kill somebody. Like, he wasn't even convicted because they thought he killed somebody. He was convicted just because he was there.
So now, if I got this story right, because you told it to me, and I just want to see if because I don't think everybody who has seen the story understands the true details of it. So they was in a trap house.
Yeah.
And the police raided the trap house.
The police came there, man. This was the summer of 2004. Police came there in the morning and knocked on the door, and then they came back in the afternoon and knocked on the door, and then they came back later that afternoon and they said they had a warrant. It actually turns out they didn't have a warrant, and they just barged right into the house.
Okay, so wait a minute. So you mean to tell me they did a no-knock, door kick, with no warrant?
And then when they busted, and here's what's crazy, and this is fact, when they busted into the house, they sprayed Nate in his face with pepper spray. And Nate, at that point, if you've ever even been in the room where pepper spray gets sprayed.
I've been sprayed.
Like, if it gets sprayed in your face.
Yeah, I've been sprayed.
You can't do anything. So Nate's running through the house, covering his eyes. He goes out of a window. He runs to the bathroom, climbs out of the window. While Nate's leaving, there's a shootout between the other man in the house and the police. Did
they pursue Nate after he ran and jumped out the window?
Get this. Nate walks across the street, sits on the front porch of a home right across this house, and just waits right there. They don't have a chase. He doesn't elude officers. He's on the front porch of the house right across the street, and waits for the police to come because he knows he didn't do anything. He didn't shoot them. He never had a gun. He was traumatized. Like, when the shooting went down, the police and this other guy were shooting at each other. He runs out of the house mainly to get away from the shooting as much as he was trying to get away from the police. And he didn't even think he was going to be charged with anything like murder. And they arrested him that day. And even then, his thought was, they're not going to try me for the murder. There were witnesses. There were people there. There was an officer who survived, and Nate never even touched the guns. And so he never even imagined that they were going to try him with the actual murder. And that's exactly what they did.
Okay, so they know he didn't shoot anyone in the house, but does the judge and prosecution know that these officers knocked on this door with no warrant and pretended to have a warrant?
See, Nate's attorneys. So now we know that, like, there was no warrant. Like, there is no history, evidence to this day. They didn't have a warrant, and even on the scene, we looked at the police reports. There was no warrant on the scene. They didn't have a warrant. His attorneys, they had public defenders, and sometimes public defenders can be amazing. In this case, he got horrible public defenders who didn't even really exploit that to say, hey, this entire ordeal should never have gone down. But because you got to realize this is Birmingham, Alabama, and police officers have been killed, the prosecutors, everybody, they were willing to look past all the things they should have looked at, like the fact that there was no warrant. They just ignored it. And the prosecutors actually offered Nate a plea deal of 20 years. That was in 2004. And Nate was advised not to take that plea deal. And he was told that they would beat that charge. Nate thought he could get free.
So now at this point, what can everyone do at this late hour to bring about some kind of relief or some justice for Nate?
You know, just a couple months ago, we fought for a brother named Rodney Reed, who's on death row in Texas. And Rodney was just 4 days away from being executed. And the courts granted him an appeal. And the governor also said that he was going to, a conservative governor in Texas said he was going to stop it. Some of that was because Rodney's case in Texas got so much coverage that it put pressure on people to do the right thing. We have about 24 hours to let people know about Nate's case. There's a website they can go to. It's savenate.com. And if you go to savenate.com, it breaks down the whole case. There's a form there for you to write a letter to the governor. She's one of the only people who could stop it. Nate's attorneys have filed appeals with district court, and that will go all the way up to the Supreme Court. But if those appeals aren't granted and the governor does not give a reprieve of any kind, Nate will be executed tomorrow at probably about 5 o'clock. And, you know, we're doing everything we can to stop it. Tip, I've never seen a man executed in a case like this. It's basically a lynching. It's because he was there, they got him wrapped up in it too. And it's like the police and the prosecutors were so determined to not just convict the man. And the man who actually did the shooting has not only apologized and begged for forgiveness for doing it, he's come forward over and over again and said, Nate had nothing to do with this. Nate didn't know about it. Nate he didn't plan it. He didn't orchestrate it. Like, to this day, he did an interview with the media just yesterday saying, like, listen, you're about to execute a man. He's on death row as well. You're about to execute a man who had nothing to do with this. And it's a horrible case, man. And Nate's family, Nate's sister lives in Atlanta, actually.
Word.
She's over in Birmingham now, but we're no longer able to reach him. They've already moved him. They move you 48 hours before execution. They move you to a special cell, and they've already moved him over to that cell. And so, of course, the family is as nervous as a family could be, you know.
Dang.
Yeah.
What about the governor? How can we get in touch with the governor and how can we send our request to the governor?
When you go to savenate.com, there's a phone number where you can call, and we have somebody. And the cool thing about, you can send a letter. If you go to savenate.com, you can send the governor a letter there, and it'll go directly to her office. But we have a phone number that people can call today and all the way through tomorrow. And when you call that number, we have somebody who actually talks you through what to say. So if you've never made that type of phone call before, if you just call the number that we have, we give you instructions step by step on the phone. So it's a dialing system that we already set up. So we give you instructions. We then transfer you to the governor's office and to other people's offices. and we coach you through what to say. All of that, if you go to savenate.com, all of that's right there. And, you know, I wish that me and you about this case 2 months ago or 6 months ago, but we learned about it when we did. You know,
Me
I
too.
just learned about it this week. And, you know, I said this to you, and it's horrible. I think there's a huge likelihood that they're going to ignore us and try to execute Nate. No matter what, I want Nate to know that he wasn't executed in silence. Like, I want him to know that we're fighting. I want him to know today that we're fighting for him. I want his sister to know that we're fighting for him. I want us to stop the execution. But in the case that we don't, I want that brother to have the peace of mind of knowing that we cared enough about him as a human being that we didn't just step by and let it happen, that we tried to fight back, you know?
I see a number that popped up. It says that it's the governor's number, but I think it's best for everybody to go to savenate.com just to make sure that they got the right number.
I'll even, if people go to savenate.com, we have a number there on the website. I can give the number out now, but it's on the website, and it's 334-605-8572. That's our number. When you call that number, that's the number we set up, and then we talk you through what to say, and we transfer you to the governor and to other staff members, and we give everybody instructions. So when you call, you're not going into it blindly. We coach you through it. And that number is 334-605-8572. But if you go to savenate.com, it's on there. And, you know, we're desperate at this point. We're just now 27 hours away. Now, I've seen executions be stopped 2 hours, you know, an hour before it's supposed to happen.
Right.
And sometimes governors will literally let it get to the very last minute. And a conservative governor sometimes will wait to see if the courts will stop it because they don't want to stop it. But because a police officer was killed, nobody wants to touch this case, man. And my thing is, I'm sorry, and Nate's family is sorry that these officers were killed, but Nate had nothing to do with that. Nate had as much to do with that as me and you had to do with that. And
I mean, at the end of the day, I think that was a decision to go and kick in the door and say you had a warrant when you didn't have a warrant. Whatever happens after that, it's unfortunate, but the accountability rests in the hands of the authority.
And here's the thing: Nate's lawyers just sent us something crazy. One officer who barged in survived, and he did 4 interviews. And 4 different interviews, he said Nate did nothing. And then when he got to court, he made it out like everybody knows Nate never touched a gun. When he got to court, he then made it out like Nate set it all up. And it's like, he did 4 different interviews.
How can you set up how can you set something up if the gentleman didn't have a warrant? They just came, just kind of, I guess, haphazardly and kicked the door in.
Yep. And again, Nate was incapacitated. You know, even the brother Spencer, who did do the shooting, Spencer said when he saw Nate running through the house covering his face. 1 second. Yeah, he said when he saw Nate running through the house holding his face, he didn't even fully understand what was going on. And you know, I know the family of these victims don't want to think of Nate as a victim, but he is a victim in this. Like, he had nothing to do with this, and he's already spent, I mean, we're talking about, he's been in prison for 16 years already. And, you know, of course, if Nate could go back, he would have taken the plea deal. But it shows you, Nate.
How can you even get the death penalty for something that you had no physical action in?
Come on, man. Well, here's the law in Alabama. Alabama is one of the only states in the country that you can be convicted of capital murder if they are able to convince a jury that even if you didn't stab the person or shoot the person, but you were committing a crime while someone was stabbed or shot, in Alabama they can convict you of capital murder.
What was the crime that he was committing?
Well, that's the thing. That they convinced the jury that Nate set it up such that they're trying to claim that Nate set the shooting up to get the officers in the house to shoot them.
How?
Which is, well, he did it. I mean,
But that's only plausible if he were to commit a crime that the officers witnessed and ran in the house at that point. If he was just in the house and didn't know that the officers were coming, and the officers, you know what I'm saying, came on their own.
Their claim is that Nate's in the house saying, you know, when they come in here, shoot them. Like, that never happened. Like, the man who did the shooting says that never happened. Like, and to give you a glimpse into Nate's mind, like, they offered Nate a plea deal of 20 years. Like,
so why would you offer someone a plea deal of 20 years if you think they committed capital murder?
Come on, man. And you get a glimpse into Nate's mind that Nate ultimately believed so much in his own innocence that he didn't take the plea deal. Like, Nate never imagined that they would try and convict him of capital murder and sentence him to death. Like, he never thought that was a possibility. And
well,
yeah.
I think everybody who's, you know, watched this live and everybody who's seen the post, and now they have the information, know what they can do, go to SaveNate.com, because we ain't got but like 27 hours to save this man's life.
That's right.
And I appreciate you, man, for bringing the story to light.
Yep.
And thank you for your time, man, for hopping on, you know what I'm saying, and sharing this information with everybody else.
Yeah, and if we get a chance, we can check in tomorrow if we get any update and let people know. They can call that number right now that says Save.
I'm gonna say it live, so after we get off, you know what I'm saying, they'll be able to, you know what I'm saying, go back to it.
Cool. All right, man. I appreciate it.
All right, man, and you know, just keep me updated, man. You know what I'm saying, from hour to hour. Just let me know what's going on.
I will, man. Take care. Appreciate you.
All right, man. Love.
Bye now.